Hey guys, this is Addicts here bringing you a level 90 Boomkin PVP guide. I'm gonna go ahead and start off with my talents. At level 15 tier, I do Displacer Beast just because it's really nice in melees to get away. Just like a mage blink. Pretty much the same cooldown too. Level 30, I go with Scenario Ward just because, as you can read, projects a friendly target, causing any damage taken to heal the target for 49,000. Even a lot more with Heart of the Wild, 74k, which of course with fatigue it still generally does about 50k every 2 seconds with Heart of the Wild, even like 30k without it. Level 45, if it's a heavy melee comp, I'll use Fairy Swarm just sort of 50% slow, but generally BGs and such, especially like Eye of the Storm in the middle or Rathi Basin up at the Lumber Mill, I take Typhoon, just it's funny to knock people off. Level 60, this one can be a toss-up between Incarnation or Force of Nature. I've never really seen any point of using Soul of the Forest. If I'm going against, well, generally I run with Unholy DK or Ret Pally, so usually I take Force of Nature, especially against Warriors, because I can just keep rooting them over and over again. Incarnation if you're with a heavy burst comp. If you're running with like a mage, a frost mage of course, y'all can put out some pretty disgusting damage in a short amount of time. But generally I'd stay away from that because I'm always going to be the target of CC as soon as they see me mutate into the super boomy. Level 75, this one's also a toss up usually. If I'm running with or against a Resto Druid, I usually take Ursul's Vortex just because they can't just shapeshift and get away. Generally I go with Mighty Bash just because it's a nice little stun. But generally I can just take any of these little target dummies and I can just root them and then beam them. Level 90, I always go with Heart of the Wild just because of the simple flat increase in stamina and intellect 6%. And plus, whenever I pop it for 45 seconds, I'm pretty much playing as a Resto Druid. All my heals cost no mana. It makes me pretty much immortal for 45 seconds. And it's pretty nice to keep your team alive. Now my glyphs, I'm running with Glyph of Barskin, obviously because of the defense that it has. Reduces my critically hit chance by 25% while active. I'm running with Glyph of Mighty Earthstock just because usually I run double DPS all the time, so it's really good to have that as a defensive. Also increases my health by 20%, which gives me over 1 million health, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 1.1 million health. So if I do that with Heart of the Wild and throw a Scenario Ward on me and a nice rejuve, I'll stay up. And Glyph of Cyclone, just because it's a lot nice to be able to be further away and be able to still cast it. I get to be over here and still cast Cyclone. Of course they're going to be me because it's a target on me. I want reforges and gems and enchants. For my helm I go with a 260 intellect at 3% increased critical effect. Plus 80 intellect, 160 crit. Now as Boomy, your main stat is going to be crit. Crit and haste. All the haste you can get. I'm at 32% haste when I'm in Boomkin form, and 32% crit. I'll show you why here in a minute after I show you all this stuff. Reforged Mastery crit. It's already had haste, so I just leave that alone. For my neck, I go with the crit mastery, and I just reforge the mastery into haste. For shoulders, it's obviously going to be the same. I just reforge the mastery into crit, along with plus 320 crit gem and 200 intellect, 100 crit enchant. On the cloak, I go with 180 intellect. Some will go with the crit, but the best would be if you're tailoring. That you can go with the weave from tailoring. And it's got crit and haste already, so I just leave it alone. No reforging for that one. For the chest, it's going to be obvious. It's already got crit and haste, so I don't have to reforge anything. Go with the plus 80 all stats. Go with a plus 80 intellect, 160 crit gem, and 320 crit gem for all yellow sockets. All yellow sockets will be plus 320 crit, and all red sockets will usually be intellect or 160 crit. For bracers, I go with the mastery and haste and just reforge a mastery and a crit with 180 intellect enchant. For weapon, just reforge a mastery and a haste, and obviously it'll be Jade Spirit. If you can't afford Jade Spirit, and try to go with Windsong. That'll be your next best bet. For the offhand, obviously it'll be 160 intellect on the offhand, reforge a mastery and haste. It's already got crit on it. For gloves, I go with a haste. Some will probably go with a mastery. I like the haste a lot more. One, because the haste affects your dots as well as crit. So that one I went with 160 intellect, 160 crit, and 160 spirit. So what do the fact for us as boomkins, just like shamans, spirit also has to do with our hit. But you need at least 6% hit, and I'm at 6.12, so I don't really have any waste there. For the belt, obviously you want to get the buckle for it. I went with spirit and crit again because of my hit rating, and a plus 320 crit for the extra socket, and reforge my mastery in a haste. And for the gloves, you can just reforge a spirit in a haste. And for legs, I went with a 285 intellect, 165 crit. If you're still having problems with your hit rating, you can go with the one that's 285 intellect and 100 spirit. Well, with 80 intellect, 160 crit, orange gem for the red socket, and for the blue socket, 160 spirit and 160 crit. And a reforge of mastery in the crit. For the boots, it has haste and crit already, so I didn't touch it. With 140 mastery and the run speed, just for the run speed. You can also go with the 170 haste if you want to get more haste. And I went with 320 haste gem, which I have to change for some reason. I think I was trying a haste build, just forgot to change that one. But go with the 320 crit instead. For the rings, I went with the hit and haste, and then reforge to hit the crit. And for the second ring, I went with the spirit and haste, and just reforge the spirit in the crit. And then I went for the proc trinket, just because to me it procs more than your use. You can use it every minute, but that's it. This one, it procs over and over. It could proc 3-4 times in a minute, if I'm not mistaken. I have to check the internal cooldown for that. I actually think if it lasts 20 seconds, it's got a 40-second internal cooldown, so that might not be true what I just said. You get it to proc twice in a minute. And of course, obviously, I'm a troll, so snare, trinket, and then reforge a crit and a haste. Or you can just leave it as crit if you want more crit. But I'll show you why the haste and crit's important. Because of the simple ability of shooting stars. 30% chance when you deal critical periodic damage with your Moonfire or Sunfire to instantly reset the cooldown of your Star Surge and cause its next cast within 12 seconds to be instant. This chance is reduced against multiple targets, which that got fixed in like 5.0, I believe. Used to be you just run around and dot everything, and then all of the procs, just forever, eternal procs. I went troll because I get berserking. You can see here, it increases melee range and spell haste by 20%. So this is even better with all the haste that I do have. Which would actually take my haste up to, I'll show you when it procs. 82% haste. And then you just dot everything, Starfall. But there's one proc. This would be like if it was a 2v2. Just go back and forth, dotting everything. There's another proc. Actually, it was 2 procs, but I wasn't able to do but one of them. Put both dots on your enemies. There's another proc. Actually, another 2 procs. Another proc. Another proc. Now, if I'm in that solar eclipse, I would put that one on first. There's another proc. See just how many procs we get. It's 2 procs. Two procs, wasn't that good. Let's try it one more time with that. Alright, there's 1 proc. Of course, in solar eclipse, you will just constantly spam RAF. When you get to the next one, you can constantly spam Starfire. Or if it's an arena, because you can just stand there and cast. Generally, once I get to one of the other eclipses, I'll put the other eclipse on first, just because of Lunar Shower. Like that. Use my things. Spam Starfire while I can. If not, then usually, if I'm being trained, I'll just spam the dot. And just hope, just like that, to get procs. Get back to doing that again. There's another proc. Another proc. And another proc. Another proc. Another proc. Which is the killers in arenas. Just there's 3 star surges in a row. Stuff is done. Generally, the best things I've seen to run with so far, apart from healers, because I don't like running with healer teams because it gets dragged out. Unless your healer actually knows how to do CC as well. Would be Rogue, which in 3s would be Dancing with the Stars, Frost Mage for the control, and I found that Unholy Decays are pretty good too with their dot damage. Your dot damage and their dot damage is pretty retarded. Of course, I've been going for a while, so I've only managed to get back at. Last night I was at 1728, and I haven't done a 3s in probably 3 months. I'll show you my macros too right before I get off. The macros that I'm using obviously is the burst macro, which is berserking, celestial alignment. I use that for when I was doing Brawlers Guild stuff, and incarnation, chosen Elune if I'm incarnation. Otherwise it just pops these. Celestial alignment, which makes 1 dot put both dots up. And of course my melee range haste. Which also, all your stats affect your trends as well. They feed off your haste and your crit, so it's best to pop them when you actually get procs with Jade Spirit or when you're popping your burst. My emergency heal, or my oh shit button, which is Nature Swiftness and Healing Touch. And if you're running with a Warlock, I forgot, that's another really good comp to run. Just because they give you their bar skin, their unending resolve, which it decreases damage you take by 40%, and it makes you immune to interrupts for 12 seconds, and a Hearthstone. So I can pretty much easily get back to full health, which I'll see if I can show you right now. I'm gonna drop and I'm gonna emergency heal myself. I'll probably be back to full, because you gotta remember in arenas it's gonna be 40% less. Well, or I can just die, one or the other. That was pretty stupid. When I res, I'll heal myself back to full. Let me show you. Oh, 175k, which ain't that bad. I don't believe there's anything else to show you. Oh yeah, one more. Which is my focus clone. Of course, whoever my focus target is. Like I say, I'm aiming at that one. I'm gonna set him as my focus. It's not going to actually cyclone it because it's a target dummy. But it would have cycloned that one. And my last macro is for freedom, especially if you're against a mage. Being as druids, we can shapeshift out of them, but I can just hit it and just keep shapeshifting right back to Boomkin form again. Alright guys, that's all for this video. If you have any questions or comments, just put them in the comments below. Thank you, and have fun.